What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches back with another video, and today I'm going to show you an acrylic toe transformation. This is what she started with, and this was underneath the enhancements. Now, I did her toes honestly a couple of months ago, so she is more than outgrown and ready for something new. I'm going to give you all the details, but of course, as usual, make sure you check the description for my Amazon storefront as well as all of my coupon codes. Follow me on social media. I am located in Sacramento, California if you do want to book me. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications because you don't want to miss my content. Y'all already know, I said this before, most of the people watching my channel is not subscribed. So come on, y'all keep coming back for more every single week. Come on, let's go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss. So this is the starting point after we did a removal of soak off. I'm already going to put a disclaimer. I've worked on this client a few times on my channel already. I'll link some of the videos somewhere in here. This client does not have any infections, not have any fungus, anything like that. This is how her toenails grow. And even when we took off the enhancements, she was surprised at how much more like flatter they grow. It used to grow more of like a point. Again, I will link videos so you can keep up with the progress that she had. I'm sending this disclaimer because for whatever reason, everyone always think dark toenails means just something so nasty and out of control. I've said this a million times in reference to this client. She has had damage years and years and years ago, and her toenails grow in even more thick than they already are. So at this point, I'm pretty much prepping her. Instead of using the regular file to file her nails down later on, I'm going to use the e-file right now to go ahead and shorten her nails because you guys, all of her toenails are thick. So with the big toes, they are even more thick and extra dark due to damage, but you can see even her little toes, the darkness that she has, that's just what it is. Her fingernails are very thick and very dark. That is her genetics. All right, so I don't want no comments about she got fungus, she got this, she got that, because I'm honestly just gonna post a laughing emoji because that means you can't even listen 2 minutes into the video to hear what's going on. All right, so to shorten someone's toenails like this, you do want to be careful because if you do touch the tip of her toe, it can, you know, be a little sensitive or hurt a little bit, so just be careful with that. Now when it comes to prepping the big toes, honestly, same as usual. Now previously when I would do her toenails, they would not be very long, or they would be long, but because they'd be so pointed and not flattened out like how they are now, I would cut them halfway and go ahead and do the acrylic that way. But this time we were so shocked to see that her toenail is actually growing in way straighter and not at a complete like right angle, because y'all, the first time I did her toenails, what, about a year ago, it was just really, is really a lot to work with. But now because she does have a full length toenail, I was like, you know what, this time we're just gonna work with the whole toenail. So this one is technically the worst one. It's always been the worst one. It was the one that grew at much more of an angle, but you can see in comparison to the other one, it is a little bit, I don't want to say broke down, but kind of like I got to fix it up a little bit more. So now we're at the place where prep is done. They're nice and shortened. We can do something with this, and we're gonna go ahead and put on our primer. I use Young Nails Protein Bond. You use it 2 times because that's what Young Nails say to do. And right now I'm just further examining because our toenails are so much more longer than normal. Honestly, we're just talking. I'm like, I'm so amazed. Now she does have a separation from her toenail from the nail bed because of the damage that she incurred, meaning although her nail's fully grown out there, it's never going to reconnect past a certain point, you know. So I personally know that her toenails are strong enough to handle acrylic. They're strong enough to be long enough. She's never like lost a toenail or like broken them like in this process. So once you know your clients, you know what you can and cannot do. You feel what I'm saying? So like I said, she have more than enough strength in her toenails to like endure this process, and for them to be this length. As you saw, they were about 2.5 months, 3 months overgrown. It's just been a crazy couple months for her. Okay, so here's something I'm going to point out to y'all. It don't matter what color that I use, the darkness is always going to show through. That's just what it is. I am not one of those nail techs that is into grinding people's toenails down to nothing. I'm not going to clip them all the way until I feel like I can make them as flat as possible. To me, it's just no need. Acrylic toes are an enhancement. They are to enhance what you got. And if you're always clipping stuff away and filing stuff away, I feel like, in my opinion, long term of doing that, it just doesn't make sense to me, you know. So in this case, because we have a full grown toenail, we don't need the acrylic to really build too much of nothing. So you can see I'm basically just squaring out the front because it was a little oddly shaped. And again, I didn't feel like clipping nothing down too much because this is the perfect length for her, to be honest. So I'm taking that first bead, I'm squaring out the front. Now she, like I said, due to the thickening of her toenails, they are going to always be somewhat thick. Like I said, even when I cut this in half or cut it low to where it is connected down low, the toenail is still going to appear thick, and at least in this way it's going to be a much more natural thickness rather than thicker near the cuticle and a little bit, you know, flatter towards the top. So I'm basically using, even though this looks like a lot of acrylic, the way I am dispersing it is what matters. So you can see most of the acrylic is kind of kept more towards the, I don't want to call it apex area, so we're just going to say the cuticle area, because I'm not giving her an apex per se. And then I'm pretty much using that bead to flatten and build around it. So any of the areas that need a little extra help, I'm dispersing the acrylic there so we can get a nice generalized shape before we worry about the color. Like I said, I'm gonna repeat it again, the color is gonna show through. Okay, I have other clients that struggle with dark toenails, and it honestly does not matter the color. This is something that they are going to have to deal with, because even if I cut their toenails down or whatever, try to disguise it, file them down, whatever grows back in, you're gonna see the darkness no matter what. So here we're just making an illusion to make things look more natural and nice and evened out. So you can see I'm getting all the acrylic in every little corner, every little area. And that area over there that I'm touching down on, I'm trying to be careful because it wants to sink in under her toenail. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, we do not want acrylic caught in little divots and stuff underneath, because once they wear shoes and stuff, shoes press against your toenails, and we don't want any of that acrylic to be sharp or dig into the skin. Which in her case, because her toenails were so overgrown, that's what was happening to her. And that is a reason why I tell people, after about 2 fills on just like regular toenails, not even damaged toenails, you're gonna want to reset, because even though we can shorten them and things like that, it's only so far you can shorten them. You need to totally reset, so that way things like acrylic pressing into your skin, you know, sometimes you have to do things differently. So I'm placing another bead, and this one is to help with some of the darkness, not necessarily for substance. You can see the beads I'm working with are way more watery than I normally do, and clients that have thick toenails or thick toenails with darkness, you want to work a little bit wetter. But the only downside is, you see this could cover some more, but because everything is so wet, I kind of have to wait. So this is what makes me be like, all right, let me wait, it's not working, and I'm gonna move on to the next toe. And that's all there is to it. So of course I'm speeding this up because, like I said, I've done this client on my channel multiple times. I just wanted to show you guys some of her progress. Honestly, it's been a long year. She's been very, very up to date with all of her maintenance. She has like done her at home, making sure that she cleans underneath the toenail, because what you guys don't realize is when you have a toenail that doesn't quite connect all the way to your nail bed, a lot of things can build up underneath, and if you don't stay up to date with your pedicures or at home maintenance and cleaning, that will cause like an impaction, which basically means a lot of stuff and gunk under your toenail. And then people mistake that for ingrowns a lot of times, because it can get painful, like stuff in your sidewalls and stuff. So there was hardly any residue or any gunk underneath the toenails. Like we were extremely happy, you know. So now that this one is a little bit drier, you see I placed that bead, and this is purely just for color purposes. Okay, so boom, now that it's dry, you guys can see the color looks so much more better. It's not as dark as like see-through. Seeing the darkness through is not as bad as what we originally thought, especially this being baby pink. So super duper nice to see. So I'm gonna go ahead and file around the cuticles. You guys have seen this time and time again. Same old, same old. Now the thing about working on thicker toenails is that you are trying to kind of like naturalize the acrylic slope there. I don't want to really say apex, like I said, because toenails, they don't really need an apex per se, because it's really just like an overlay. But because there's going to be bulkiness, I'm focusing on clearing up some of the bulkiness without taking away from the color. It is a tricky thing to do. You have to know when did I go too far, and you have to know when do I stop. So you can see I'm basically trying to get the cuticle area to kind of come to a slight slope before it just like boom, a bunch of acrylic. I'm trying to take care of the underneath. As you saw, there was some acrylic that spilled a little bit. And so this process is really a fine balance, because if you take away too much acrylic, now it's gonna look really weird, you know? So here you go, we're gonna just go ahead and file. And this is another tricky part, because we're trying to get it nice and shaped, and there's just a lot of product and toenail we have to file through. Fun fact is, when you're doing nails just on hands, the more acrylic and the thicker it is, the more that you're not gonna get a good shape. So if the tips of your acrylic enhancements are super thick, or there's a lot of acrylic there, you're gonna have to like thin some of it out, you know what I'm saying, get rid of some, because it's not gonna work very well. Which is why you guys see when I file the cuticle areas, I will typically go underneath a little bit and focus at the tip to remove any excess product while I'm filing. And to be honest, I think at this point I need to go ahead and get another file, because I used this file to do her hands already, so it was pretty much broke down, and because it is a an 80/80 grit zebra, so the grit was worn down. So I'm like, okay, here we go, boom. So like I said, her toenail underneath is growing pretty nicely, so it doesn't take too much to like give her a good shape. But again, I am taking in consideration that I want this to look as natural as possible for her. And honestly, this whole process, we was amazed. I was like, girl, this is crazy. You was really overdue. Like, look at your toenails now compared to what they was. Like, we was just going back and forth about it, because it really is an amazing thing. I love seeing clients who keep up with their enhancements and their overlays and all that. They come back, they see so much progress. They I don't even know. It's honestly like a happy mom sending their kid to college. Like, you just be watching like, oh wow, you did it, like this is so great. Like, that's what I tell people. Like, I be telling people like, I feel like I'm your mama sending you off to college, like you didn't graduate high school. Like, that's really how it feels. Because I be so happy. You see, when you stick with stuff, how far it takes you. Like, people sometimes underestimate acrylic toes or like overlays, because they think like, oh, what is that gonna do? But sometimes your first set might not be the best. It's something that you keep up with, stuff keeps growing, you keep finding different ways, you know what I'm saying? So if you're a nail tech out there and you're feeling discouraged about why aren't people coming back, sometimes people got to go other places and realize they kind of messed up in leaving your chair, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, sometimes they won't come back, but there will always be the ones that once they find you and they can see the longevity, like, okay, the bigger picture in the process, if you're really helping somebody, they're gonna stick with you as long as possible. And if you're a client watching this, just know sometimes your first result is not the best result, but sometimes things get better along the way. So if you're feeling like my nail tech kind of did a good job, but it's not exactly what I thought, or oh, I thought my overlay would be longer, or this, just give it some time. You know what I'm saying? Stay consistent with it for about 6 months, and then see if you've seen any real improvement. If you think about it, 6 months, that's only about 6 appointments. I mean, hell, even 4 months will give you something. And just know that, toenails grow very slowly. So you need to take that into consideration as well. All right. Let me see. So yeah, we're basically still finally going back and forth. I wanted to keep in a lot of footage for you guys so you can actually physically see the transformation between how overgrown it was and then what is she working with underneath and what I'm able to do for her. It's really going back and forth, like I said, to make sure we are making everything nice and smooth and as debulked as possible, but still keeping the color that we got. And I will say that from the side, you guys could probably see a little bit. From the side, you're always going to see a little bit of that bulkiness. That's not anything that that's not anything that I can control or do anything about. My goal is to make everything look as healthy as possible and give people their confidence. So yeah. Oh, I also want to point out that you guys, I'm sorry, what is it? It's barely about to be 10 in the morning. But I'm up. I can't talk. I don't know why I can't talk. Oh, yeah. So, whatever techniques works for you, do that. Like I said, I'm not a person that is really into drilling and filing and clipping people's toenails so low so I can get the result I want. I personally am about working with what you have, because even if someone does that for you and you feel like, wow, this looks so perfect, what you're really working with is always going to grow in. I just want to point that out. No matter what somebody does to make your toenail feel and look as perfect as possible, it's whatever you really have underneath. This is like veneers, baby. It's always going to be there. All right. So we might as well learn to work with what people have instead of focusing on just like a strictly perfect aesthetic Instagram looking thing. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and also, a lot of people been talking about why I don't use gloves. Y'all, if no one has an infection, it ain't no need for gloves. I'm gonna just say that. All right. So here is the final result. Again, you can see the toenails do remain a little bit thick, but this is such a natural result for her. There's no way that your client won't be happy if you can do the same thing for them. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, you guys, I will catch you guys in the next one.